Alright, so Cyrene's drip marketing has finally dropped, and it's time to sit down and really go through everything we know about her so far. This is one of those moments where the hype and the leaks all start coming together, and with version 3.7 right around the corner, players are asking the same thing. What kind of character is she actually shaping up to be? And should I be saving my Stellar Jade for her? I want to unpack the leaks, the testing changes, the community reactions, and the narrative context. Because Cyrene isn't just another banner unit. She's tied directly into the core of the Amphorius arc, and she could easily end up being the character that defines the end of 3.x. Saridra and Silverwolf's banners are finally here, and you can save up to 25% on these banners at lootbar.gg. Here, I can buy 3,280 Woneric shards for $40, while it costs $50 in-game. I just enter my UID and select a server. I received the shards right away on my account. Besides Honkai, you can also top up in Genshin. Lootbar has over 100,000 satisfied users and also supports PS5 and Xbox top-ups. I regularly use Lootbar for my giveaways, so I can personally recommend it. Use my link in the description for an additional 10% discount. Now, of course, everything I'm about to talk about is still based on beta information and leaker reports. Things can and do change, and nothing is official until we see the patch notes. But if we look at how Hoyoverse has handled characters in the past, we can usually get a pretty accurate picture. So with that said, let's dive in. Early on, Cyrene was described as the Dream Remembrance support. The first leaks painted her as this universal enabler who could buff any team you put her in. We're talking team-wide energy regeneration, true damage scaling for the entire party, resistance penetration, maybe even defense reduction stacked on top. And then there was the Memo Sprite, a spectral stingray that isn't just cosmetic, but actively empowers the team while it's out. At that stage, people were calling her a must-pull, the kind of unit who instantly raises your damage numbers no matter the lineup. But as the beta moved forward, the story shifted. More details suggested she wasn't quite that universal, that instead her buffs were tuned to work specifically with the Chrysos heirs. Castoris with his dragon. In that picture, Cyrene became less of a fits-anywhere unit and more of a dedicated enabler for a super comp. She was basically the missing puzzle piece that made the heirs team absurdly strong. Now here's where things get really interesting, because more recent reports suggest her design has shifted again. Instead of being either purely universal or purely locked to heirs, Cyrene is shaping up as a hybrid support. She's not Sparkle 2.0 who buffs everything under the sun with no conditions, but she's also not chained exclusively to Castoris. The impression people have from the latest testing is that she's technically universal, but her best numbers and her most broken synergies still come when she's alongside the Chrysos heirs. Some theory crafting even imagines her buffs being worded something like, "For every heir in the party, grant the team true damage." That would make her flexible while still rewarding Amphoreus synergy. And honestly, that approach makes a lot of sense. If Hoyoverse had dropped back-to-back dedicated Castoris-style supports, players would have been frustrated. By making Cyrene lean universal but still heir-optimized, she has appeal outside of just one comp, while still feeling like the perfect capstone for the Remembrance archetype. The relics tie directly into this, too. Back in version 3.6, Hoyoverse introduced a new relic set that buffs all allies whenever a Memo Sprite is active. That's basically a giant neon sign saying, "This is for Cyrene." We've seen this playbook before. Kafka's Damage Over Time relic set released a patch before her. Acheron's Nihility set dropped right before she did. It's classic foreshadowing. So, if you're planning to build her, farming that 3.6 relic set now is basically the smartest prep you can do. From a lore perspective, Cyrene's importance goes even deeper. She's one of the Chrysos heirs, successors who carry the divine flames of the Titans, and that puts her right in the center of the Amphorius narrative. Fans are even comparing her to Alicia from Honkai Impact 3rd in terms of presentation, expecting polished animations, custom cutscenes, and unique voice lines that set her apart from regular units. Some people are even joking about wanting her to have personalized dialogue, cheering on Phanon or encouraging Castoris mid-battle, because that's how tightly she's tied to this archetype. Whether or not Hoyoverse goes that far, it's clear she's not just a gameplay addition, but also a narrative centerpiece. Now let's talk about how the community is reacting. Honestly, it's been pretty divided. On one hand, some players are frustrated by the shifting narrative. Early leaks said she was the universal sparkle of remembrance. Then she became Castoris's exclusive support, and now she's being described as hybrid. People are understandably skeptical and feel a bit of leak fatigue. On the other hand, a lot of players are defending the changes, pointing out that kits genuinely do evolve between early and late testing. So it's not at all unrealistic for CYRENE to have shifted roles mid-beta. Personally, I think the hybrid direction makes sense. If she had stayed locked only to Castoris and the heirs, she would have been a niche unit that a lot of players would skip. By opening her up as a broader support while still keeping her strongest synergy with the heirs, Hoyoverse makes her appealing to a wider audience without losing that thematic flavor. It's a smart middle ground. So what does this all mean if you're a player deciding whether to pull? If you're invested in Remembrance comps, CYRENE is basically the final puzzle piece. She turns Evernight, Castoris, and Hysolins into an absurdly strong lineup. If you're not into that archetype, she's shakier, but the latest info suggests she won't be wasted in other comps. She's not a universal plug-and-play like Sparkle, but she's also not as restricted as some people feared. That balance makes her a safer pull overall, even if her absolute peak performance is still tied to the heirs. And this is where I want to ask you guys, do you prefer characters who are designed as specialized enablers that make one comp ridiculously strong? Or do you prefer the universal style like Sparkle who just fits anywhere? CYRENE looks like she's landing somewhere in the middle, and that's a fascinating design choice. We'll know more soon since the drip marketing is here, and patch 3.7 isn't far off. Until then, the best prep you can do is farm that Memo Sprite Relic set and decide if you're ready to commit Stellar Jade to her, because one way or another, she's clearly being positioned as the centerpiece of this patch, both in gameplay and in story. So that's everything we know so far about CYRENE, her evolving role, the hybrid support design, her synergy with the Chrysos heirs, the Relic foreshadowing, the lore significance, and how the community is reacting. I'll keep tracking any new leaks or beta adjustments as they come in, but for now, she looks like a universal-leaning support who still shines brightest with her fellow heirs. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want more deep dives like this as we head into 3.7, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next update. And let me know in the comments, are you saving for CYRENE, or are you holding out for Constance in 3.8? I'll be reading through your takes, because I think the community's split on this one is just as interesting as the leaks themselves. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.